Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. And we are back with another leaders talk. This time I'm really, passionate and looking forward to hear from our leaders today, Mr. Ian Harfield, who I know for a long time, and I fully respect his contribution to FM success. I have attended a lot of his conferences, it was like presentations. You can see it's webinars now, but earlier it was physical conferences, and we enjoyed the debate that we always try to do, especially Mr. Ian, in talking about another approach to make client aware of their role, because it's not just facility management. Service provider role is to apply best practice. It's as well the owner and the client side has to do their role. So it was really amazing time through the industry, and we are lucky to still keep Mr. Ian with us in Middle East. Alhamdulillah, he did not go to another region and he stayed with us. So thank you, Mr. Ian, for joining us, and welcome to our MEFMA Leaders Talk.
Thank you very much, Ali, and it's always a great privilege to be invited. So it's nice to see you. As you quite rightly said, we've known each other for a while. So yes, I think we've been through the whole cycle of outsourcing FM solutions, services from the very early days of the concept in this region. So it's nice. It's nice. And thank you and welcome to you all, for all you joining. It's always nice to see. And yeah, let's have a nice and engaging conversation.
Inshallah, we'll do. So thank you again, and thank you for the attendees who are there. Please, if you have any question related to our discussion, especially leaders questions, you can put it in the chat and we'll try to discuss it as well. But if you have non-leaders questions, maybe you can keep it for another webinar from MEFMA. We are always there to answer all your questions. So to start with, Mr. Ian, we would like to know more about your background and how did you start your career in facility management? The mic is yours.
Thank you, Ali. This is always quite an interesting one because many people that entered the facilities management market never did it by intention. When I entered the facilities management or services market, as it was then, it wasn't because it was something I wanted to do, but it was a position that evolved once I joined. Because I mean, going back over time, and I admit I'm probably older than many people, but when in the early 90s, let's put this in perspective, there was no degrees in facility management. There was no study relating to facility management. It was all under the management. It was all under the guise of property management, asset management, etc. Never existed. So in those days, big property owners would have a property management department, and that's where it went in. But many people that went into this sector weren't necessarily engineers. They weren't necessarily HVAC people. There was a complete mix. So for me, I started my working career in the sector in a dockyard.
Wow. Okay.
Looking after shore facilities for ships and other things. And the first role that I had was as the buildings person that would look after all the buildings in the dockyard. So when they wanted to do alterations, when they wanted to look after stuff, fix the roofs and things like this, this was my first role. And yeah, so it was. So when I entered the market back then in the early 90s, it was the dockyards, or the big owners of government assets and things, were the only people that would have these types of services. So it was a very different type of market today. And we didn't have the concept of internal customers and clients either. So it was very, very much, when you wanted the work done, we would do it for you when we thought we should. Now it's very different. So, but yes, so that's how I started my career. I've got a degree in construction all things. So I'm slightly engineering-y biased, but I wouldn't necessarily say that has been the most important part of or contributor to my career to date.
So you said where it was actually, which country? It was in UK when you started?
It was in the UK.
Yeah, okay.
I started in the UK. Yeah.
Then you moved after that. How did you,
So how did I progress?
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting one. So I was waiting. So when in working for the dockyard, it was a part of the government. It was actually part of the Ministry of Defence. So we were government employees, and then in these days, the whole concept of outsourcing was just coming in. So we'd probably been there a couple of years, as I was a buildings and civils engineering officer. And I've been there for a couple of years, and then what we found out is that the government was going to privatize all of the non-core services. So this was the first introduction into the mix between core and non-core. So for them, core was the business, what they wanted to do. So for them, the core business for them was ships, and the non-core bit was the buildings around the dockyard, because that wasn't core to their business. So what they decided to do was to capture all the non-core stuff, package it all up, and create a separate company with it. And that's where we start to see the early days of the services, or FM business as it's known. And there's some quite famous companies that have come from this background. I don't know if anybody from Serco is on. Serco was created from this. Oh, this is how Serco came into existence. There was another company called Interserve.
Yeah,
they came from exactly the same background, although they've been through a few iterations on the way. So these large outsourcing companies that we see today came from these very humble roots of being government departments. And this is where we started. So I started there. We got into it. I moved forward from there in a very traditional way. I took on a wider role, a more senior role, and developed my skills and knowledge around that. The role that I was doing was very technical. So I was dealing with quite technical aspects of buildings and the way that they were being used, and working with the customers because they wanted to change things, they wanted to move something, they wanted to create offices, they wanted to take offices away. So we were doing sort of refurbishments, conversions, maintenance, fixing storm damage, quite a lot of things. And it was a very much writing specifications, putting things out to tender, managing contractors. So it was quite a hands-on role. And then from there, I left there and I joined a construction company that had set up a services company. And I think I was probably one of the first 10 employees. But this service company was special because their model is to do what we then called PFI, Public-Private Partnership, okay, which is now known as PPP, Private-Public Partnership. So from there we focused on developing an outsourcing model that delinked the customer from the asset. So the model there is you want a university, fine, you're the core person, so let's help you be the university lecturers and we'll provide you the building and you only pay for what you use and we'll take the risk on how this works. So this is a model that's just starting to come in this region. We've got quite a lot of development in PPPs in this region. And the concept is that you as the buildings professional carry the risk on the building being right at the right time at the right moment. So if somebody has a lecture theatre, it has to be 22 degrees, the lights have to work and everything. If the lecturer opens the door, the lights don't work and it's 40 degrees, they don't pay for it. So it was the starting of the concepts of SLAs, KPIs, getting things around the right way. So these were quite interesting skills. So you went from a very output-based market in the government to a very input-based. And this, we're talking, you know, early, mid 1990s, end of the 1990s. So, you know, a good 20, 25 years ago, again, in the UK. And then from there, I built up a portfolio. I ended up looking after a hospital, 5 or 6 schools, a university, various other buildings and stuff, as a sort of a regional manager across a part of England. And then the key thing there is that you go from being a technical person to being a manager.
Exactly.
And the two are very different. Being a manager is not necessarily about explaining how good you are technically, but about getting the people that work for you to develop the confidence and take responsibility for what they're doing to move forward. So this is quite a step change when you move from a position of being an engineer, a technician, a specialist, into a people manager. So, and a lot of people, some people can do it naturally, some people struggle with it, some people find a way. But the key bit is the key success is about understanding people, understanding behaviors, understanding what motivates people, what doesn't motivate people, and bringing various different feeders and basically trying to find the right tone and pitch in which to deal with people. Because there's no point in going shouting and screaming at somebody who's just going to put their head in their hands and start crying, because it doesn't work. Exactly. It's destructive. And so what you need to do is you need to build up people's how do we say it? People's not just self-esteem, but confidence in where they've come from and what they know. And so often you see many managers go wrong, where the manager perceives that his position as manager is because he is the given expert. He knows everything, and he will sit and criticize the people that work for him for not bringing things to the right level. They will never succeed. They will never succeed. They will always be a middle manager and all the rest of it, because they're not a leader. They can't step forward. So yeah, so that's quite interesting. And then briefly from there, I went into the telecoms industry and worked looking after a portfolio of nearly 2,000 buildings with people scattered all over Europe and the UK. Wow. And then from there, I came to Dubai, where I met you, Ali.
Which year it was?
2005.
2005, yes.
Yes. And yep, and then I joined a company as a GM, and we went through a process of invigorating everyone, bringing everyone to the fore. And then in 2009, 2010, we formed KoFi V6. We started with 12 people. Wow. We're now just under 3,500, 4,000 people across the region. But we kept to our roots of being technical experts. And so what did we do to get there? And again, it was that story around the transition between technical and management. It's about getting a good team, understanding which people are going to be technical and very technical, and which people can make the transition to management, and then working with them to develop their skills. And management skills come from experience. You can read the book, you can go on the courses, but they come from experience. And the experience for management comes from dealing with people. So if you don't like dealing with people, you'll find it very hard to be an effective manager.
Yes, agreed.
So I mean, in a very quick potted way, I mean, and then from there, our KoFi V6 story is obviously we as an organization grew locally with some good successes. We now are in 4 countries in the region, and still growing very, very quickly. But my role changed significantly from being the general manager of an entity. Now I'm the managing director of the GCC. So now I manage managers that manage managers that manage managers. So your skills again start to evolve again, because you don't necessarily have to motivate people as hard and all the rest of it. You now need to find ways to lead people, to guide people, to encourage them to work in a certain way and cascade the same values that you have. I mean, my personal values is that every employee is sacred and should be looked after. The role of the management is to support the employees, not to be on top of the employees. The employees are the ones that generate the money, not the manager. So you have to, have that empathy with them.
300%. Amazing story, and I think it's important for all of us to look and evaluate our capabilities. And I agree 100%. Without being in ground dealing with people, how you can be a successful people management person? That is how you will improve. So looking, we talked about a lot of things, during your career, and you grow in responsibility. There is a lot of secrets behind growing a responsibility and getting the trust of top management. I think one of them is your, I don't want to say passion. How do you see the passion as a key to growing in career? Because we see people who are technical, I know my job, but they're not passionate about what they do. What do you think? Do the word passion is a key to our success?
I think this is where you come to these skills. So, just like in FM, you have hard services and soft services. Soft being cleaning and security, reception office type work, and hard being technical. As a manager, you need to learn hard skills and soft skills.
Yeah. So
for everyone, our hard skills are our technical basis. So it starts with our education, then our early learning in a work environment, which builds up our experience and knowledge and technical type things. But the soft skills are the ones that you don't get taught. So the soft skills are having the knowing that you know something and you know it's right, but not enforcing your opinion, because you know the person that's talking to you is going to get upset when you tell them that you don't want to belittle people. You want to encourage people. You want people to flourish. The soft skills are about when you walk into a room or walk in somewhere, that you say hello to everybody. You're just the same as them. You're not any better or worse than they are. You're just more fortunate. So when you walk in somebody, whether it's the bottom of the heap, the cleaner that's on 600 dirhams to the chief engineer, you should say hello to them. It doesn't cost you anything. And to them, it invigorates them. They think, I'm recognized. Somebody sees me. But you have to do it sincerely. And that is the refine, when you start to refine the skills. So when you walk in, you see somebody, you don't know who they are, but they're part of your organization. You should say hello to them. How are you? And all the rest of it. You have to create a sense of openness, because that is the important bit. If you're the MD, CEO, chairman, and you walk into the office, up your private elevator, and lock yourself in your office and that, how can anybody come and talk to you? Everybody should be able to talk to you. They work for you. They're part of your organization. They should be encouraged, and you shouldn't. And many managers are fearsome of staff coming. They're worried about a technician coming in and telling them that they don't think their salary is right and all the rest of it. But why not give them the opportunity? If they feel that strongly about it, they should be able to tell you. So you've got to have that way of holding yourself that makes people understand that you're there to lead the organization, but you're still human. You still have all the normal functions that everybody else has, but you're approachable. You can talk to you, and then learning that, the best person to learn those skills from is somebody that does it badly.
Okay.
Everybody in their organization will have somebody that's an autocratic, militant ruler. And for those of you that are working in organizations and can recognize these types of people, my tip is watch them, watch how they behave, and everything they do, don't do. And look at the way the people around them react. Everybody here spends between what, 10 and 12, 8, 10, 12 hours a day, 5, 6 days a week at work. Would you want to work in an environment where somebody's constantly on your head? You know, it's more than 50% of your life has been spent in the office. So, you know, as a manager and a leader, the office environment should be embracing, it should be peaceful, and it should be fun. Okay, it's stressful at times, things have to get done and all the rest of it, but you have to enjoy what you do. And then by it being that environment, it creates the passion. Because if people want to go to work, they become passionate about their job. Yeah. You know, they understand it. They understand where they fit into the chain. You know, whether you're a purchase ledger clerk that puts invoices onto a data system, or you know, you're a cleaner, or you're a chief engineer. If you don't understand where you fit into the system and you don't like working there, you're not going to be passionate.
Exactly. That is the key to being passionate.
And the best place, yeah, and as I say, Ali, the best place to learn is from a bad manager.
I agree 100%. We've been through this kind of experience, and I think also simplicity, being simple. Don't complicate things as a person. I meet a lot of people, Ian, and they are always talking technical, especially in our courses. And you guys, stop talking technical. Can you talk a little bit? Think about people. Think about the soft skills. So for you, you were very technical, and you suddenly switched from being technical to manager people. For me, it was not easy to do that. I was very technical in telecom, power plant, redundancy. I didn't want to continue because I didn't want to talk to generators. I wanted to talk to people, and I shifted. It was not an easy experience. How did you see that for you? Was it an easy thing to shift from being a very technical person to more strategic and more people manager?
You know what? I think the best thing is that if you try to plan your career,
yes,
you'll fail.
Okay. Okay.
I think as you know, if you start out from day one, so day one you get your first job, and if you say to yourself, right, in 2 years' time I want to be the assistant manager, in 5 years' time I'm going to be this, in 10 years' time I'm going to be this, then what actually happens is you become focused on the career levels and not the actual career. Your focus is about pushing along all the time, trying to get up a level. And then because you become focused like that, what you end up being is you end up being the typical bad manager. You end up being somebody that's not interested in their staff, or the only interest they have in their staff is to progress their own career. But if you actually think, okay, you know, I want to find something that I enjoy, and if you enjoy it, you'll naturally succeed. And if you know, we were talking a minute ago about passion. So if you're in an environment that's a nice environment to work in, or you find a nice environment to work in, and you enjoy it, and naturally, if you're enjoying something, you're going to do better at it, because you're going to go the extra mile, because you've got a feeling for it. You really do it, and as a result, if you're in that environment, people will see that people are doing well. And what happens is that in order for most businesses, in order for promotions to happen, one or two things have to happen. Somebody either leaves or the business grows. So the ideal business you want to be in is that the promotions are happening because the business is growing. So the business is getting bigger. So you've got, you started with 100 people. There's now 200 people. So that means there's now twice the amount of supervisory management jobs, opportunities. But if you're in a stagnant business where people don't want to be, and people start leaving, then you're either going to be the person that makes the fundamental change within the business to change the atmosphere, to change everything, or you're going to step into the shoes and do the same. So you know, when people, I have a great funny one. I was in a Kareem the other day, and I got into the Kareem, and you know, they're welcoming, and he was chatting away, and he said, I've just been on a course. The Kareem driver tells me, I've just been on a course on how to be successful. And I said, oh, how did that work? And he said, oh no, they taught me about what I have to do to be successful. And I said, and really, and what do you think the outcome was? And he goes, well, he said, I've got to still do this, and I've got to still do that. And I said, but do you not think that you're actually making other people successful by going on the course? And he said, well, what do you mean? I said, well, how can you teach success? Because everybody could go on a course to be successful, but not everybody's successful. So it comes down to aptitude. It comes down to people's personality, people's soft skills. And then when we had a little bit of a run, it was on the way out to Expo, so it was quite chatty. And he said, and in the end, I said, you know, if you want to be successful, do something you're passionate about. Take on something that you're really interested and passionate about. And then he said, I don't know what I want to do. And I said, oh, okay, well, obviously you're a Kareem driver at the moment, but what's going to be the next step? What would you think you'd like to do next? And then there you have to match people's reason for working versus aspirations. So his reason for working was because he needed the money and that. Whereas when people enter the market as juniors, their reason for working is because culturally, you start work, you go out to work, your parents have paid for your education, now it's your turn. And we had this long conversation about it, but what I'm trying to say is you can't learn success.
Exactly. I agree 100%.
Yeah. Yeah. So
you have to be successful. You have to try and try and try.
Yeah. And by trying, you learn.
Yeah. Agreed 100%. It's great insight. Mr. Tariq is writing, in the management environment, the most probability type of people is manager. However, to find leader, you need an inspiration environment.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about this comment?
No, completely. I mean, if you were to look at the most inspiring business leaders that we know of, obviously we go to our usual checkpoints of Steve Jobs, Richard Branson, these types of people. But then if you actually look into it, you know, Richard Branson didn't actually have any qualifications at all. He was just a personable individual. He was personable, he had a self-starting attitude, and he was persistent. And then obviously people like Steve Jobs, I mean, that came down to Apple and various others. So you've got these iconic people that are successful, but there's no particular model that made them successful. So what organizations need is that they need a leader, somebody that stands at the front and says, right, guys and girls, this is what we're going to do, and this is why we're going to do it, and is inclusive and shares what is actually going to be achieved. And then when the things are achieved, it's celebrated. I mean, it's not rocket science, you know. And then that type of approach, if you have a positive demeanor and you're out there and you're going to soak up what's going on, you're going to see what's going on, and you're going to see the different people, the leadership types, the management types, and all the rest of it. You know, at the end of the day, they can equally be a leader that, as I said earlier, it can be absolutely autocratic. You know, everybody will follow me. I am in charge. This is what we're going to do. You know, but then in hard times, will the people stay? You know, if the salaries in the market went up 5%, everybody would go, wouldn't they? Because they got no affinity to the business, no passion for that business.
I agree 100%, and I think we have a lot of people writing down about so many, you know, what you call it, the challenge that they have, especially developing their skills. And I fully agree, Ayan, it's all about you. What do you do with your time? How can you use your time the most? We lose opportunities because we are, unfortunately, it's not just the work environment. Why do you just keep yourself and you judge yourself based on your boss perception? You develop yourself. Don't wait for anybody to develop you. Even by going in the field, listening to your teammates, people who report to you sometimes, and even people who does not even report to you, sometimes you understand more about the business you are in, you develop your skills. So what I feel, human being has huge credibility, has a huge, but it's about how can you make yourself ready? How can you make your capacity bigger to learn every day, to communicate better day by day? And I think this is something that you have to create yourself.
Yeah, there's an inner, it's not necessarily a thing. Some people, at the end of the day, in this world, we're all different, and for various different reasons, and the differences come from cultural conditioning, from the way we've been educated, our families, all sorts of things make us all different. And then within that, we have personalities. So some people can be quite narcissistic, all about them. Some people can be very sort of giving. Some people can be very sort of shy, and all right. So not all of those people will succeed. But actually, the thing about it is that there's a level of contentment that people need to achieve. So somebody may come into the market, that they may be an assistant manager, and they may be very happy there. I'm happy. I've got what I want. I feel safe. I don't feel I'm threatened in my role. I feel valued. I feel I am an engaging manager. I like the team that I have working with me. I'm happy. So why would you take somebody from that role and give them a role that's more challenging? Are they going to perform better or not? And then that comes down to people's personality. Some people will be like, yeah, give me the challenge, I'm going to make it happen. And some people just by nature will be like, no, I'm happy to stay where I am. And I think for many people themselves, I think there's a moment of intuition or self-reflection where you just have to sit and think, what do I actually want? Everybody wants to be the MD, the CEO, and the rest of it. But as a level of work contentment, what do I actually want? Do I want to be, in my head at 3 a.m. worrying about something, or do I want to be getting on the metro at 5 o'clock thinking, yep, I'm done for the day, I have no stress? And I think people need to understand that bit first, and then from there you then can start to position yourself. And it's not conscious, it's subconscious. You then say, right, okay, I'm going to go, I don't feel I'm challenged enough. Okay, I'm going to push myself now. I'm going to find a better role, or I'm going to work more closely with my manager to see if I can take more responsibility.
I agree. I think it's all about how do you, put yourself in a place that you can be more productive. It's not about the place sometimes. Wherever you go, you're going to see problems. But how can you become more productive? How can you contribute to something? How can you be proud of what you're doing? Even if I always say you have to have a reason for doing what you're doing. Even maybe you start by not liking what you're doing, but to have a peace of mind, you have to go and to talk to yourself. Because I remember I was in one organization and I was the only guy smiling. And one guy told me, why you're happy? This is a very bad organization. Our boss is terrible. And you're happy going around. I said, listen, I don't want my boss to make me unhappy. It's my decision to be happy or not happy. It's not his decision. I think he's not hurting me. He's hurting himself by being rude to us. So with all respect, I'm going to enjoy my life, even in a bad company. And this is what I want to say to people. It's how do you self-motivate yourself and be proactive even in a bad situation, like COVID time. A lot of people learn new skills in COVID time. A lot of people say, what's going to happen to us? Let's read the news. Oh man, their temperature went high, not because of Corona, because of their mental, mental strength, you can say. What do you think about mental strength? Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, we are going in a different direction.
No, I think when you look at it from obviously like a leadership perspective and working your way up, it's quite an interesting one, because many people go through the route of basically working, but they feel that the more they work, the more they're successful they will be, and that is not true.
Yeah.
You know, obviously you have to do your contracted hours and the like. So don't think that if I work 1 hour a day and I have the natural aptitude, I will get to the top. You probably won't, because your manager will probably criticize you for not turning up. But what a lot of people believe is that by working 15, 16 hours a day, it's going to necessarily increase their chances of success. But I mean, and this is a common one, you know, it's about working smart, not about working long, you know. But at the same time, the important bit where I want to get to this is that you need to balance your life. You need to have if you have a passion for what you do in work, you need to have a passion for what you do outside, and you have to balance them. You need to find something that gives you a moment of extraction from yourself, that you can then be riding a bicycle, driving a car, whatever you want to get into, where you can think about things. You can think about things without having the pressure of thinking, I've got to come up with a solution by 9 o'clock before I can go home. Well, it's not going to happen. It probably will happen if it's the right one. Maybe 50% of the chance. But if you can look at the way that you live your life, and into a point that, you know, that you have a moment when you do something completely abstract, like cycling, running, because when you're doing other things that aren't working, your mind goes through things, and it can. Surprisingly, sometimes it can bring an element of clarity to things. You know, sometimes when we got some particularly challenging things, you know, you think, okay, we'll leave it here now, and we'll look at it, as we say in English, with fresh eyes in the morning. And the concept is that if you take a step back from the problem, it's often easier to see it. But you have to do that with yourself, you know, and your own career. Somebody's just put on there, what is the difference between a leader and a manager?
We do that in our course. You want to answer it? It's easy. We've already talked about it. It's very clear.
I mean, yes, it is, and I think the real question is many managers think they're leaders and they're not.
Exactly. 100%.
You know, that's the one. But
we
yeah,
had,
but, you know,
go ahead. We had the comments in Arabic talking, Mr. Tariq, Engineer Tariq, talking about in a honey, or what you call it, a bee environment, you don't need a lion, you need a queen, and you need the people who are working for the queen. So I'm not sure what is the relativeness of that to our discussion. We're trying to make sure people grow in career by decision, by learning, learning from others. So what do you think of his? I think
the easiest analogy in there is in that system, none of the bees are going to become queens.
Okay, if he wants to be a bee, he doesn't want to be a queen, it's up to him.
That's fine. But equally, if you want to be a queen, you're stuffed, because you're never going to be there. I think
you can move. You can, if you are a queen, you move and make other people follow you to a new place, and you make a new.
Yeah,
so
okay.
So I think it's all about taking risk. You know, for me, it wasn't easy for me to move from the first job to the second job. Maybe similar to you. Taking risk, changing job is risky, right? Yeah.
Where does the risk exist?
You're starting from zero again. This is what people think about.
I mean, sometimes obviously in this regional market of the GCC, the risk of changing job are different to, say, in your home country. Yeah. So for example, here in this country, the risk is that because you're as expats, our residency is based on our employers and this. So the levels of risk in changing roles is different. But if in your home countries, the level of risk in changing jobs is your self-esteem. Are you personally confident enough to take the new role?
Exactly.
Did you I was going to say something else then, but did you kid yourself when you were at the interview? Did you tell them a whole load of stories that weren't true, and now they think you're 500 times better than you actually are? So you have to be quite honest with yourself, and you know, when you make changes, and for me, when I made the change from a very technical role to a managerial type role, I didn't actually think about it. I just thought, no, this sounds interesting. I want to have a go at this. I didn't doubt it. I knew at the time management wasn't. I hadn't been a manager before, and I was going from coming from a technical role. My philosophy is I know what I'm managing because I've started at the bottom. I know the technical aspects of it. So, you know, I know what type of XYZ has to go in, the functions, and it is. I know that. So now when I'm going to manage people, I'm not going to tell them how to do it, but I'm going to help them learn. You know, I'm going to help them say, well, actually, maybe it needs to go like this, and that's where you build the skills. So I think if you and I'm talking to some people more recently, I think a lot of people overanalyze things.
Yeah.
You know, and if you sit and think this and think that, maybe this and maybe that, and maybe this and maybe that, you're probably going to get yourself tied up in knots. And I think sometimes you have to take a gut instinct. Can I do this? Am I going to do it? If you're going to think and maybe have doubts, then what happens is when you start work, those doubts will come out straight away because you could be nervous or a little bit lacking confidence in what they've asked you to do. So I think you just have to be confident in yourself. You know, understand what you understand, and don't oversell yourself because you'll be found out within 3 months.
Exactly.
You know, you'll last 3 months and then you'll be found out, and then they'll spend the next 6 months trying to get rid of you.
Exactly, I agree 100%. So if you are a manager, time you spend in the office versus time you spend in the field, what is the percentage like? 50-50?
If you're managing people, you should be with the people.
Okay, great. Exactly. Not sitting in the office waiting for people to come to you.
Nope.
You go to the people.
You're there to make sure they can do their job. They're not there to keep you in the office.
Exactly. Okay, so we have a question here. What does it take for an industry newcomer to grow? Like, so I think you've talked about it, but just a small summary. What does it take for a newcomer to grow in their career path and responsibility in FM?
So I think the first one I would say is choose your first company wisely.
Okay. If they choose you, good.
Yes. And understand the market. Understand. Have spent a little bit of time understanding the companies and the philosophies within the companies, because they're going to employ you, but you need to choose them too. It needs to be a two-way process. You need to want to work for them, and they need you to want to work as well. So if that's not matched, then it's going to be a bit tough. The second one is do what you've been asked to do well. Yeah. Focus on what you've been asked to do. Do it well. Do it well. Okay. Show aptitude. But don't if you've been asked to work a maintenance system, or you've been asked to manage a maintenance process for X, do what you've been asked to do, but be proactive. Go back to your manager and say, well, look, you've asked me to do X, I've done that, but what I've noticed is that 3 of my people that are working on X could also help on Y.
Nice.
Show that you can see the big picture. You need to understand you need to understand the finite picture of what you've been asked to do, but you need to see it in the context of the big picture. Amazing. And then what that demonstrates to the people that are managing you is that you're not just coming in doing X every day. You're coming in, you're doing X, but you can see there's a bigger opportunity.
Amazing. I think if people are not benefiting from this leaders talk, they will never get it. I think these 5 advices are amazing, and I have to say, do whatever you've been asked to do well. It's like, you know, you show your commitment to your organization. Understanding, amazing discussion, and I hope these are keys to success to anybody in any industry, not just NFM. So next question. What is the key to be successful? Again, I think it's the same and growing within the industry. What do you think, Ayan, about being a little bit attached to an industry rather than to a company? Like, you know what's happening in the industry, you are a volunteer. Do you think it will help? Yeah,
I think as I just said earlier, I think you need to. It's important to understand the big picture. You know, if you understand the big picture, it puts context to what you're doing. So it is always so as you say, you know, if you're part of an industry, understand the industry, engage with the industry, become a member of an industry body. You know, obviously MEFMA, there's MEFMA, and I know you're all MEFMA members, but engage in it. Engage in it, talk to people, you know, and then sometimes, you know, if you think that there's an opportunity and there's somebody within your organization that you're inspired by, ask them to if they would mind mentoring you or having a chat with you.
Exactly, that's very good as well. Yeah, reach for people. That is very important. All right, we can read. Mr. Malik is saying, I believe people should work on developing themselves anywhere and not wait and stay in the same working situation if there is no clear vision and goal.
I believe,
well,
yeah.
Well, see, I agree, but you have to create your own vision. Even if you are working for a boss who doesn't have a vision, you should have your own vision working for that organization or goal. You need to, you know, leaving the company without contributing to any success will not give you a good story to tell the new employer. I always say, give me, what is your achievement? Please don't tell me where did you work. What did you achieve while working there? You as a person rather than, you know, so somehow we agree with you, but you should always, without leaving that place, you should contribute somehow to improvement. As you said, be proactive.
I think one of the things is when you join an organization and you're being interviewed, one of the questions to always to ask as an interviewer is am I going to be working for you? Because if you're interviewed by someone and then you turn up and then you're now working for somebody else, it changes the dynamic.
Know your boss.
Yeah, I mean, logically, you should be interviewed by the person that you're going to work for. But many organizations don't do that. You know, they have an onboarding department or a recruitment selection department, and they just bring people in, and then they get placed with people. Because one of the key things is matching your personality with your boss's personality. You know, if they don't match, you know, it's you know, one of the two is going to be unhappy.
100%. I agree, fully agree. And I was interviewed once, a big organization, I'm not going to say where, within UAE. And I said, who are these guys interviewing me? They were my peers. I said, where's my boss? I want to see my boss. They said, no, after being selected. I said, sorry, I'm not going to accept any offer unless I meet my boss personally. So it is your right to show your interest, to know who you're dealing with. And I agree with you, Ian, on this. All right, so we'll move because we have 10 more minutes. Let's move to a little bit more general questions about the industry. How do you see the FM industry contribution to the country economy post-COVID? What did we learn from COVID as an FM industry?
Right, that's a good question because it's my favorite one actually. Okay. What did we learn about COVID? What did COVID teach the FM industry? That manpower-based contracts aren't the way forward. Output-based, it was the first opportunity that the clients that had output-based contracts, real output-based, were able to succeed. Because the client, in the client situation, because he didn't say, I want 10 people on site, 20 people here, 15 people here, and all the rest of it. He just said, I want the service done. The actual service providers were given the real challenge to make sure those services were delivered. So what COVID did is it hammered it home that output contracting works. And for the clients that said, I want 25 people on site and all the rest of it, then had to go to their service provider and say, no, I only want 10 people on site. And then the service provider said, yeah, but you're paying me for 25. That's what our contract says. So it was a very simple example, but you know, what is the FM industry doing for the economy post-COVID? It's accelerating the recovery. The fact that the FM industry continued throughout COVID with all the challenges that were put upon it by the government, by the medical authorities, by everybody, but they continued to deliver. That things were kept serviced, things were kept clean, things were kept going, and that's important. Now what we now see as well is that the post-COVID, the rate that the service companies are able to ramp back up again. I mean, from my perspective, obviously my organisation is predominantly a mechanical, electrical, technical organisation, so we don't have the soft services side. But one of the interesting thing is, you know, just because I don't have it, doesn't mean we don't understand it, you know, because you know we all talk. So what the interesting thing is sitting and talking to some of my peer group about the pain that they were going through when they were having to hold back, you know, hundreds of cleaners and soft services people, and now the clients want to ramp back up again. They want them all back, but they're now having that opportunity to talk more output based. You know, let's talk about the condition you want your asset kept in rather than the people that look after it, which is kind of accelerating that step change, because you know we can't bring back in as many people that left. You know, there was a mass exodus because of what happened. A lot of these people are now more reluctant to come back because they want more security. So that's what it's done. So I think the important thing is the service industry is fundamental to the economy, because behind the scenes and we're a sector of the market that gets very little recognition. It just keeps everything going. You know, we are the people that keeps the lights on, keeps the electricity on, keeps the cooling going, keeps the car parks clean, you know, manages the receptions, deals with the telephony, deals with everything. And the fact that it's seamless and doesn't work is its greatest success.
Yeah, exactly. Agreed, 100%. Also, I think COVID, one of the lessons learned that you have to take care of the welfare of the employees as well, because during COVID, if the service provider employees are not living in a good place, they might have COVID that can be transmitted to the owner side. So I think there was a lot of clients who came and say, we want to see how your people live, where do they live, how did they transported. So I think it gives us more going back and talking about these important elements of our service delivery, the welfare of employees, using technology, understanding, you know, what do you think?
No, I agree, 100%. I think it goes back to what I said earlier, you know, people have to be happy.
Yeah.
You know, and happiness isn't necessarily just what they do during the day at work. It comes from their, you know, wherever they're staying, their accommodation, their home, you know, whatever their circumstances. So it's you know, it's a service industry, it's a client-facing industry. You can't expect somebody that's in a room with 15 people to be skipping around smiling, and then when the customer asks them how they are, to be, oh no problems. You know, yeah, there are problems. You know, I should be in a room with 6. Why have I got 15 in my room? You know, there's a reason why the Dubai municipality said 6 people, because it's to do with all the welfare facilities, etc., etc. So it is so important, and it has to be right. And you know, and I you know, personally, obviously, as an organisation, you know, we have our own levels of compliance, but it is so disappointing to find possibly third-tier organizations that are in the same market that flagrantly ignore this, you know, and that is when you look at the leadership of the organization. If the leadership of the organization isn't prepared to play the game fair, then how are they going to treat you?
Exactly. 300%. This is very important for all of us to take care of our employees and integrate further with our clients, try to become part of their team as well. My last question before we end the session, 1 hour is almost over. What are the leadership qualities you need in your FM team? if you want to hire people, what is the quality you expect from them?
Well, I mean, there's the typical ones that you say. Obviously, you want people with experience, people that can manage and work with customers, people that can demonstrate they have, you know, I mean, everybody talks about this can-do attitude. It's not just a can-do, it's more can-do and deliver attitude. It's people that understand the importance of the workforce, the welfare, you know, that don't believe that forcing people to work 20 hours is, you know, we're not into that. We're about getting people that understand the value of human capital. You know, we all talk about people are our greatest asset and all the rest of it, but when COVID hit, how many companies just dropped all their staff? We didn't. We made a commitment to pay all our staff. So we want that ethos from the people that we engage with. So when people come through, that's what we're looking for. We're looking for organized, respectable people that can demonstrate that attitude, and they're positive, and that they see the bigger picture.
Exactly. All right, very clear. So this is where our advice for our industry people is: how can you present yourself when you get to an interview? It's not about making a CV looking good, but it's how you are prepared to show your personality, because you cannot hide your personality. Even if you want to hide and show that you are perfect, nobody is perfect. We are all having gaps. So being maybe more transparent, yeah.
More transparent, and the key things are listen. If somebody's talking to you, listen to them. You know, don't listen to the first 5 seconds and then answer. Listen, let the person talk, say what they have to say, and then whilst they're doing that, use the time to structure your answer.
Exactly.
You know, because it's not a race to answer as quickly as possible. You know, and then it's also about understanding who you're meeting and pace them. I mean, if I was doing some interviews and a guy turned up in sneakers, jeans, and a t-shirt, I would not be impressed. He may be the best person in the world, but my first impression would be pretty negative. So I think we're in a different market now. I know people don't wear suits and ties anymore. It's a bit more fluid, but think about what business dress means to people.
Exactly. Understand. Thank you very much. I think we have very interesting 1 hour. Do you want to say anything before we close this session?
No, just thank you very much, Ali, for the questions.
Thank you.
I'm sure I can see there was a lot of chats and questions. I'm sorry we can't answer them all, but yeah.
It was amazing, and I think this episode will be there on YouTube. Please go back and listen to a great leaders talk and direction, and I hope you get inspired and find your way in your career and become proud of what you do every day. Thank you, Ayan, for being part of Leaders Talk, and thank you everyone for attending, and wish you all the best, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Bye.
you. Take care.
Bye.